All right, folks. Well, I thought I'd talk to you about some thoughts on why maybe Justin Trudeau called this election. A lot of people criticizing and saying, why on earth would he do it? You know, is it just because he might get a majority, he thinks he might, or is it because, who knows? You know, he doesn't need that pandemic mandate. He was able to do whatever. He's getting some flack for it. I've got some thoughts on why I think he did it, and I thought I'd just sit down here at the side of the house. This is the fun side of my house here where I didn't plant sunflowers, but the bird feeder had some, and they dropped in there, and a bunch of this stuff came up. So I thought, oh, that's cool. We'll let it come up. Anyway, this past week I saw an article in the news about since the election's called, all the actions of Parliament are dropped, and that included the directive that came from Parliament and the Speaker of the House to produce documents about the scandal around the Winnipeg Level 4 lab. And maybe you don't know what that's about, but what happened was in Winnipeg we have a Level 4 bio lab, kind of like what Wuhan is. And in that lab, we're working a couple of Chinese scientists who apparently had some links back to the CP and the army back in China. And they were caught bringing in some Ebola virus, I believe it was, on a commercial flight from our lab in Winnipeg over to China, to Wuhan. And whatever transpired, we don't know. But with all the pandemic, things are up in the air on this. And what transpired was the RCMP came marching in. They grabbed those two guys, two people, and took them out of the building. And they stuck them on flights back to China. That was it. But not only was that it for them, two of the bigwigs, I don't know if they're main directors or whatever, in the Winnipeg lab then resigned. So in our House of Commons, we have various committees, but one of the committees that has oversight of this sort of thing asked for some documents, some insight into what had happened there. Is there lack security? Is there issues around what went on? How could these Ebola viruses got loose? You know, they asked for questions about that. What's going on with the CCP, Communist Party, and these scientists with all the stuff going on with Wuhan. And of course, not having a majority, that committee wasn't dominated by the Liberals. Well, the Liberal government refused to produce the documents. They roadblocked it. The committee asked again, they refused. They asked a third time, insisting on it. They refused. So the matter went to the House of Commons. And in the House of Commons, the Commons here in Canada, for those that are American or otherwise, that's our government. They voted that these documents would be produced and brought to this committee. And the complaint was, oh, there's national security issues. Well, this happens all the time. And what happens, we have a process in Canada whereby before the documents come out to anything that would be public, they're checked to make sure if there's any national security and redacted. It's normal. But for some reason, that wasn't good enough for the Liberal government. So what ultimately happened is the Speaker of the House ordered that the documents be produced, and then Justin Trudeau and the Liberals took the Speaker to court to block it. That's never ever happened. And not only that, the courts can't overrule Parliament. I mean, it's like separate branches in our government. In fact, the Parliament can deal with the court because we elect them. And so the big question is, what on earth is going on here? What is so big that Liberal government and Justin Trudeau will go to that length to block that information from coming out? Well, anyway, that would make its way to court. My suspicion would be if it got to a judge, the judge would say, no, the Speaker of the House and the Parliament have ruled you must produce the documents. That was all, coming up. How do you stop it? The way you stop it is you call an election. And then all the actions that have been taken by the government that are on the table to yet to be done actions stop because you're going to have an election. So is that why Justin Trudeau called the election? What's really going on here? What was so big that they were so desperate to cover it up? And remember, Justin Trudeau was willing to call an election around, I can't remember what issue was it last year or 2 years ago? He threatened to call an election because because he wanted his way. And this time, maybe that's what happened. We don't know what the answer is, but I suspect there's more than meets the eye goes on there. For certain, there's something they don't want anybody to see. That went on with the communists in China, their scientists that were working at our laboratory in Winnipeg. Remember, it's a level 4 lab. That means they're doing these deadly viruses like coronavirus, COVID-19 it was, but also real bad ones like Ebola. Oh, God help us if Ebola ever got loose. And I think that might be what's going on here. Interesting, I haven't seen anybody in government or in the campaigning talk about it. Maybe it'll come up. There's some thoughts for you I have today out in my sunflower garden here that I didn't plant. I just thanking God for it. Have a good day.